Hello and a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world, and welcome to today's postgrad webinars, LLM webinars. We're joined today by the University of Minnesota Law School, joined specifically by Assistant Director of the International Programs, Hannah Logan. Hannah, hi, lovely to have you today. Just before I go any further and introduce you formally, Hannah, we have a live audience today on the 29th of January 2026. If you have any questions and you're watching live, please pop it in the chat facility or the Q&A facility. If you're watching on demand, Postgrad Solutions, webinars at postgradsolutions.com is the best email address to contact us on. But without keeping you waiting any longer, Hannah, over to you. I'll be back for the Q&A at the end.
Marvelous. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Like you said, my name is Hannah Logan. I'm the Assistant Director of International Programs at Minnesota Law, and I'm delighted to be here with you today or whenever you're watching this to talk about studying law in the U.S., specifically at Minnesota Law. I will go through an introduction of our law school, our city, our state. I will talk about the application process for law schools, which is pretty standardized across the country, talking about how to pay for this. We know education in the United States is a lot more expensive than most other places in the world. And then the experience, what it is like being in the classroom and outside the classroom in the United States as a law student. So many people don't know a lot about Minnesota. It's not particularly famous if you are older than a certain age and don't know who Prince is, but we have some amazing sports teams. We're located right in the middle of the country, as you can see. We get some snow in the winter, it gets pretty cold. Excuse me, but it is, excuse me, it is pretty warm in the summer. As you can see in the bottom left here, in the autumn, the leaves change color and it's really beautiful. We have an amazing live music and live theater scene. Judy Garland is from here, who played Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. And then things like Post-its were invented here in Minnesota by 3M, which is a pretty famous company, I think. So as you saw on the last slide, we are located right in the center of the country, in the middle. It's very well located if you want to spend a year or two in the United States and do a lot of traveling. It would be unusual to spend more than 4 hours in an airplane getting anywhere in the United States from Minneapolis. It is a very nature-forward state, so there are more than 11,000 lakes, including Lake Superior, which is the largest freshwater lake on the continent. The Mississippi River starts here, which is the longest river on the continent. And then the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul are on either side of the Mississippi River, right in the center of the state there. On the picture on the left, you can see our professional NFL football stadium. The law school is one light rail stop to the left of that if you're looking at the picture. So very close to downtown, very close to a lot of the businesses, big law firms, as well as theaters, museums, sports venues, that sort of thing. It's a really incredible place to live and be for a year or two of your life. Our law school is very highly ranked. We are always in the top 20 overall. This year, we're a top 5 public law school based on the US News and World Report rankings. The number of total students each year varies a little bit, and that includes JD, which is the standard 3-year law degree, which I'll talk about in a moment, LLM, SJD, and MSPL students. We have a great student to faculty ratio. You really get to know your professors well and your classmates. We have a lot of student organizations that you can be involved in outside of the classroom, which I'll talk about later too, and then an amazing career center. One of our career counselors was an international law student herself. She got a job at a big law firm and ended up coming back to the law school to help pay it forward and really provide her perspective and her insight to benefit our students. So we're very lucky to have her and our LLM international students. Everybody has the same full access to the career center here. We have 2 LLM degrees, a general American law LLM degree or the business law. Either one is 1 year, 24 credits. If you earn the general American law LLM, you can choose to specialize in one of our 12 concentrations, which you can see there on the screen. Otherwise, if you do the business law LLM, you would focus only on business law for about 2/3 of your credits. There's a lot of flexibility either way, so it is very much a choose your own adventure, make it what you want of this year academically. We also have a relatively new 3rd semester option. So if you decide in spring semester that you wanted to do a concentration, but some of the required classes are only offered in the fall, you can stay a 3rd semester and get those classes taken care of. If you decide you want to earn a second concentration, there's simply not enough time to do that in 2 semesters, so you can stay for a 3rd semester to do that. If you just love being in the Twin Cities, you love being at Minnesota Law, you can stay and just continue your coursework that way as well. You need to be earning at least a 3.0 GPA to be approved to stay for a third semester. And if you are, your scholarship would continue at the same per semester rate as usual. We have an incredible summer series for legal English. Well, we call it Legal English Advanced Development, or LEAD. It's a few online courses in Canvas. They're asynchronous. You can take them anywhere you want in the world, whether that's coming here early or staying at home for a while. And then we have two 1 week in-person sessions that really help you practice your written and spoken English, which is really difficult to do if you're not here in the United States. If you do all five, which is not required, you can pick and choose whichever ones are most interesting to you. But if you do all five, we do discount your fee and give you a certificate of completion once you're done. So there's a short link if you want to learn more about that as well. So that was Minnesota law. That took me less time than I expected, which is always nice. There are many, many reasons why people want to earn a law degree in the US. I think the most common reason that I hear is to really strengthen your legal English skills. You can take classes, you can do the apps online or the listening things online. It's very different than being immersed every day in the classroom in a professional setting to really learn and absorb all the legal English you can. It's also the best way to increase your knowledge and understanding of US law and our legal system by being in it, by interacting with practitioners, by interacting with people who work in it every day, and the professors who have worked in it for their entire career. It's a chance for you to network with lawyers from around the world. We have very internationalized campuses here at the law schools, and so the LLM programs specifically are often only for international lawyers. If you know that you are going to work at a big multinational law firm doing a lot of transactions, or at some sort of corporation that does a lot of cross-border negotiation, having these connections with colleagues and lawyers from around the world in all different continents, all different contexts, is really useful. And getting to know them as a classmate and a colleague is a great way to build those relationships from the very beginning. If you think you might want to work in the US for a little bit, we can talk about OPT later. It's an incredible opportunity to get practical experience in the US legal system. There are internships, there are jobs you can take to really learn from experience firsthand what it's like to be a lawyer, to be a legal practitioner in the United States. Another thing I will add is that an LLM is typically 1 year. The JD is 3 years. You can use that as a test, sort of. Do you like the environment of the US law schools? Do you like this style of teaching? Do you want to learn even more? You can test it out and decide if you want to stay an additional 2 or 3 years and complete the JD degree. So let's talk about these degrees. The JD is the standard degree for practicing attorneys in the United States. If you are here in the US and you want to stay here and be a practicing attorney for the long term, you will need a JD eventually. The degree itself is 3 years, and it makes you eligible to take any bar exam in the United States. As you know, we've got 51 jurisdictions, the 50 states and DC, and the vast majority of students in this program are domestic students from the United States. Again, this is required essentially if you want to practice in the US long term, so it makes sense that most people would be from here. The LLM, on the other hand, is only 1 year typically. As you know, we can extend ours to a third semester. Some have 1 year of legal English, then 1 year of an LLM, but the standard is 1 year. It makes you eligible, once you've completed it, to take the bar exam in many states, but not all. The most popular are New York and California. LLM degrees can be specialized in something like tax law, human rights law, something like that, or they can be very general, taking whatever courses you want to learn more about the US laws and legal system. There is a possibility at some law schools to complete the 1 year LLM and transfer into the JD, having those credits count toward one of the 3 years of the JD. That's possible at some schools. And the majority of students are international students. The LLM is an internationally recognized degree, much more so outside of the United States than inside the United States. There are some LLM degrees geared toward US attorneys, and they're usually pretty specialized on something like tax law, for example. I also want to mention that there are some US law degrees for non-attorneys. We have a small SJD program, which is the research-based doctorate. Students typically finish that in 4 or 5 years, and that's very common for people who want to be professors, for academics, who want to do a lot of research and writing and really dig into one specific topic and know everything there is to know about it. There are also masters of legal studies, masters of science in law, that sort of thing, that are for non-attorneys, but that need to know a lot about the law. And those tend to be 1 year long programs as well. There is so much information on the wonderful internet about law schools, law degrees. LLM Study, of course, is a great resource. They host a lot of virtual programs. Attending these, watching the recordings later, is an amazing way to learn about law programs. Hearing directly from the source, directly from people like me at whatever law school you might be interested in, is the best way to get accurate, up-to-date information. The Law School Admission Council, which I will talk about in a few minutes, has a great directory of programs. When you create your account there, which you will need to do to apply to most law schools in the United States, you can sign up for something called CRS, which is the Candidate Referral Service. That allows LSAC to send us your information so we can send you more details about our programs. So you don't have to do anything, just check the box that says, yep, law schools can contact me and we'll send you information when we have it available. The American Bar Association has a great list of specializations. So you can filter by school, geographic location, type of like category, type of degree and specialization. LinkedIn, you can search for the different law schools and look up some of their alumni and see what they're doing to give you a sense of where people go after they graduate from a particular law school. And then, like I said at the beginning of this slide, the law school websites, law school representatives, the content that we create is the best way to hear directly from us. And you can request more information. You can get on our mailing list. There are lots of ways to do that. I will also say that Education USA is a US government funded program with offices in almost every country around the world. They are amazing resources for local funding opportunities, helping with resume or cover letter, a personal statement editing, finding translation services. They host a lot of webinars like this too, and they're a really nice way to learn more about the US education system generally. The last note I'll say about how to search for and learn about law programs is US News and World Report is a very prestigious ranking system for law schools in the United States. Their calculations about which law schools are the best only factor things and data about the JD programs. So LLM programs are not considered in that. However, of course, at the highest ranked law schools or highest ranked for a certain category, LLM students also get access to those benefits and get to take advantage of those opportunities. But the LLM programs themselves are not factored into that. So US News and World Report is a useful tool. I ask students, please don't let that be the only factor you consider when you're thinking about studying law in the United States or any content area for that matter. So I could do an entire hour on how to find the best fit for you as you're looking at different schools and deciding which one might be better than another. I will keep this to just a couple of minutes today. There are 4 categories I always encourage students to think about as they're looking at their options. Think about what you want academically. You are going to come to the United States to earn a degree, to take classes, to get to know professors, to network with your colleagues and your classmates. So think about, do you want a big university, a public university, a private university? Do you want a specific professor to teach you courses or a school that's an expert in a certain content area? We have a human rights center, for example. Do you need legal English support before you start? Do you want a program like that in the summer or the year before your official degree starts? Think about professionally, what kind of network do you want when you're done? The alumni networks at universities in the United States are incredible. They are kind, they are supportive, they are generous, they can be fun. So think about, are you from a country and you want a lot of colleagues and connections in your home country? Or like I mentioned earlier, are you going to work somewhere and you need a lot of different contacts in a lot of different places? Think about that. Look at or ask for the list of the countries where students have been from in the last few years, and that will help give you a sense of that. It's also a chance for you to do some networking while you're here. You could do informational interviews, you could take people out for coffee. You will get to know professors and other practitioners. Think about what kind of connections you want to make and what sort of skills you want to have when you are done to help you succeed in your career after this. People laugh sometimes, but geography is an important factor. One of my best friends growing up was admitted to a college in Seattle for her undergrad. She knew it rained too much and didn't have enough sunshine, so she didn't go there. That was her top choice for a while, and she realized she wouldn't be happy without a lot of sunshine. So she went to a different college. Think about that. You cannot be successful if you are not happy and healthy. So, how much nature do you need? Do you need to be in a big city? Do you need to be close to a major international airport because your sister's getting married and you need to be able to go home easily? These sorts of things will help you find your place and feel like yourself outside of the classroom as well. And then personally, what do you need to be successful? Do you need a lot of good mental health support? Do you need access to amazing healthcare? Do you need friends? Do you need friends from your home country? Do you need a good population of people from where you're from to celebrate your holidays, to eat your foods? Or are you hoping to be thrust into something totally new and different and really challenge yourself in that way? There are no wrong answers. Whatever you need to be happy and healthy so that you can succeed is important for you. So you need to think about that as you're going through the application and admissions processes. What do you need? And that will help you determine which schools to look at more closely, which schools to apply to, and then, of course, once you've been admitted, which school to submit your deposit to and actually enroll in. So, again, I could talk about this for hours. I think this is so important and so interesting. And I really encourage you, as you're thinking about coming to the US to study, think about these four categories and then make some sort of spreadsheet or something as you're applying to school so you can find what the best fit is, the best match is for you specifically. Once you've decided the schools you want to apply to, including hopefully Minnesota Law, you will create your account on LSAC. The Law School Admission Council is the organization that manages the LSAT exam for JD programs and all application processes for all law schools in the United States. Many LLM programs require you to submit your application through LSAC. A few schools also have the option to directly apply to them through their own platform or mailing them paper copies, for example. But it's always an option to submit your application via LSAC. And I do think there are a lot of advantages for students as you're applying. You can upload everything once and then to your account and then tell LSAC, please send my materials to Minnesota Law, Ohio State, NYU, UCLA, wherever you're planning to apply to, and they handle that on their end. You do not have to make a bunch of different copies of your transcripts and your resume and all these things. You upload it electronically once and they handle pushing it out to us. On our end, we get to log in, see your materials, review it all electronically, whether we're working from home or in the office or we're traveling. It's all very convenient. And they handle a lot of the equivalencies and making nice graphs and charts for us showing, okay, if you are from Uzbekistan and you earned these grades, this is the equivalent to these grades in the United States, and really help us as admissions representatives make it a fair assessment for every applicant. When you are applying, you will need to create and have a bunch of documents that are probably going to be the same no matter which law schools you send them to. So you will always have to fill out the application form. You will always have to upload your resume or CV. You will have to write a personal statement for each law school. And I do want you to make sure you write a different one for each law school. Don't just swap out the names of the law school and write the same one for each one. You will need letters of recommendation. Those can be the same. You can just have someone who knows you well and can be specific about your strengths. Write that. They upload it to LSAC. Very easy. You will need official transcripts directly from every college or university you have attended, sent directly to LSAC with the translations. You will need to prove that you have English proficiency. I get asked sometimes what is the most important part of an application, and Minnesota law, like many law schools, uses a holistic review as we are pushing students through the admissions process. I think there every part is important, but I think the English proficiency is often the biggest indicator of how successful a student will be while they're here. So if someone does not have good English proficiency, they're probably not going to be successful, and it would be irresponsible for us to admit them. If they have really high English proficiency, they probably will be able to navigate the law school environment better, and they're much more likely to be admitted, even if maybe their grades aren't great or their personal statement's a little confusing. So keep that in mind. Most law schools do have a holistic review and take everything into account, knowing that you are an entire person. You're not just the details or just your grades or the details on your resume. So keep that in mind. Having a high English proficiency score is really useful. And most law schools have a law school application fee of $50 or $75 to help us um, take the time to do all of these review things. I will say there's a lot here. Each school is a little different, so pay very close attention to the law school website. Email us, email any admission representative from any law school you're considering applying to clarify if you have any questions. Make sure you do that before you apply. It's much easier to clarify before you apply than after you've submitted everything. That gets a little more complicated then. I encourage students to make some sort of spreadsheet, have a written document somewhere if that's your style. Keep very close track of deadlines and requirements. Each school is going to be very similar, but it will be a little different. Apply early. Our application deadline is May 1st. I encourage students to apply at least 1 month before that if possible, even earlier. That gives you time to receive the admissions decision and then decide, okay, here are the 3 or 4 admissions offers I've received. Here are the different scholarship offers. Thinking back about those best fit categories and make a decision without rushing. And again, if you have any questions about the materials you need to submit for the application process, about the scholarship offer, about the timeline, anything like that, we are here to help. Please contact us directly. Don't rely on your friends. Don't rely on the internet. That's our job. We want to help you in this way, and we are very happy to do it. You are never bothering us by emailing us with questions, emailing us to set up a Zoom meeting one-on-one so we can talk through your situation. We are always happy to do that. That's why we're in this job. We are not in this job to read 100 personal statements a week. We are in this job because we like interacting with you and want to help you through this incredibly important decision. If you have applied to and received admission offers from several different schools and you don't choose us, we are not going to be offended or maybe disappointed, but we're not going to take it personally. We know that if you didn't think you were the best fit for us, you wouldn't be successful here. We don't want people in our programs who aren't going to be successful. We want you to go somewhere where you're going to be happy and successful and thrive. The money is always a difficult conversation just because the United States has a different structure than a lot of other places in the world. When you are coming to the US, if you are not a US citizen or permanent resident, you will need an F1 visa to enter the US to study. That's at any college or university for any subject area, including law, of course. As part of that application process, you will need to prove that you have enough money to support yourself for the entire year, including tuition, fees, food, lodging, and miscellaneous expenses. The cost of living, insurance, everything ahead of time. Part of that will be whatever scholarship you are offered, of course. Maybe you will have a scholarship from your local government or Fulbright or something like that. Maybe you will have a big savings account and that will contribute toward it. Sometimes people have family or friends or their employer will give them some sort of scholarship, or maybe you'll end up taking out a loan. All of those things combined, maybe you'll have 3, 4, 5 different things you can submit with your F1 visa application to show that you can support yourself financially while you are here. There are some opportunities to get free money that you do not have to pay back. We offer scholarships. Minnesota Law has a very generous scholarship program for our LLM degree. Most law schools are able to offer admitted students something, some sort of scholarship. It is very rare that schools are able to offer full tuition scholarships. You're always welcome to ask. Do not be surprised when most law schools tell you that's not possible. The funding structure of US higher education is a little complicated, and full tuition scholarships are very rare and difficult for us. They often only cover tuition. So I'll show you a picture in just a moment here of our breakdown of the different costs. We have tuition, which is just the cost of the coursework. Then there are some fees, things like facilities fees, sports stadium fees, the transportation fee. Scholarships usually don't cover the fees. And then, of course, there's living expenses, which often doesn't get paid to the school, but that's something you'll need to prove ahead of time anyway. Thinking about the scholarships from law schools, again, usually it only covers partial tuition. Some schools have an extra application you need to submit. Some schools you just need to check a box and say, please consider me for a scholarship. I don't have all of this money in my bank account. I don't have a scholarship from my government. Some schools, you're automatically considered. They might ask you to say, do you have some sort of government scholarship or employer scholarship? Maybe not. Maybe you will just be awarded some sort of scholarship based on merit. Some schools are clear that it's merit-based versus need-based. Some schools take both into account. If you have any questions, ask. That's the moral of this story. That's the most important message from this whole webinar. I think if you have questions, ask us. We want to help. We want it to be clear. We want to make sure you're making the most informed decision possible. Things like LLM Study might have some bursaries or some external scholarships. Maybe there is an online contest or a small grant. Places like Education USA work closely with Fulbright to help students get usually pretty substantial scholarships to help them study in the United States. And then, like I mentioned, sometimes people have family members or friends or their employer who have grants or scholarships that they can take advantage of and apply for and receive to help them pay for this and prove as part of the F1 application that they have money to support themselves. We don't officially endorse loans. I don't, as someone who took out student loans for my higher education here in the United States, I don't love the idea of needing to pay that back, but it is a good option for some students. So there are lots of options out there. You can do that. Please be careful. Take into account eligibility requirements, what the application process is, if you need a co-signer or a co-borrower who's a US citizen, thinking about whether the interest starts accruing as soon as you receive the money or after you graduate. These are all things you need to consider and think about. And most law schools do not get involved at all in any way, shape, or form with loans. So make sure you're talking to a lawyer or a trusted colleague or friend about that as well. So for example, here's how we break down our tuition and fees at Minnesota law. The tuition is a separate line item. Health insurance in the United States is mandatory and you have to pay for that. And then there are some fees. We estimate living expenses and textbooks to be that, and then there's that total amount. So that is the amount that you would need to prove to the US Embassy, the consulate where you're having your visa appointment, that you have to support yourself. These do change slightly year to year, so this is our estimated for next year, and it's published in July each year for the coming fall. So there is good news. Excuse me. At Minnesota law, at least, every admitted student is automatically considered for a scholarship. So like I said, every school does it a little differently. At Minnesota law, if you are admitted, we automatically consider you for a scholarship. Unless we know based on the application process and the interview that we do that you are fully sponsored by, for example, your government or your employer, we will award you something. Some students get very small scholarships, some students get very large scholarships. At Minnesota law, the average usually covers about 30 to 50% of tuition. Again, that's just tuition, not the fees, not the living expenses, but it is automatic and it is fairly generous, we think, compared to a lot of other law schools in the United States. So, taking you through this process, you've done the research, you've applied, you've been admitted, and you've decided where you want to go to law school, and now you're thinking about actually coming to the United States to do the thing, to earn the degree, to enroll in classes. The US law student experience is pretty unique. Our goal as law schools is to prepare students to be lawyers in the future. So we want you to think like a lawyer. This is using logical, analytical, and creative ways to solve problems and find solutions that is usually collaborative. In the classroom, a lot of it is lecturing by professors, but every day there are also chances for you to interact with your professor and with your classmates in the classroom. Most law schools use the Socratic method, which is a shared dialogue. So the professor will be lecturing, they will take a moment, and they will ask a big question. And they will choose someone in the classroom, one of the students, to answer that question. That's called a cold call. You are not warned in advance. You are not prepared necessarily. You are not notified ahead of time. But if you have done the reading before class, if you have been listening, it is your opportunity to show that you have absorbed the material, that you have learned it, and share your opinion. I think that is the most unique part about US law school classrooms is students are encouraged to share their opinion. It's rare that there's a right and wrong answer when you're assessing a case. You can say, I would interpret it this way. The professor might say, I disagree. I wouldn't do that at all. It's not necessarily wrong. That's part of the learning process in US law school classrooms is having this back and forth discussion between professor and students and other students and that first student to really think about the law from all angles, think about the case from all perspectives, and really get down to what is the core of this, what can we learn from this, and how should the law be applied in the future. Part of that is the professors are accessible. So in the classroom, you are always welcome to raise your hand and ask a question if you don't understand something, if what you read and absorbed and understood is not the same as what the professor is telling you. And outside of the classroom, professors always have office hours. This is a set time every week when the professor is in their office with their door open. You do not have to make an appointment, although you can, to show up and ask questions and get to know them. Even if you understood the reading, class made total sense, you understood everything, it's a chance for you to ask them about them and help them get to know you. One thing that might be helpful if you're thinking of doing a doctoral program after, or you might want them to write you a letter of recommendation for a job someday, this is a chance to get to know them as people. Take 10 or 15 minutes every couple of weeks and just stop by, ask how they're doing, tell them about what you're learning, how what you're learning in their class is affecting what you're learning in other classes and making more sense. It's a really nice way to get to know them. And professors like it. They want this. They want to get to know their students. That makes this Socratic method, this discussion in classes, so much more interesting and rich for them and the rest of your classmates. So professors are very accessible. They are not just practitioners, they are teachers as well. Outside of the classroom, extracurricular activities are so important. Like I mentioned at the beginning, Minnesota law has more than 30 student organizations just for law students. Law students are also welcome to join some of the other student organizations at the Central University, but just for law students, there are more than 30. So that gives you a chance to get to know your peers on affinity groups. So the Muslim Law Student Association, the LGBTQ plus student organization, the South Asian student organization, or things like the chess club, the musical theater performance club, the ping pong club, things like that. And it's a chance for you to go to events hosted by them. They do some volunteering opportunities. You get to know your classmates outside of the classroom in a more casual, informal way to really build those relationships, making classes and your whole experience in the US much better. I wanted to highlight some LLM specific courses and experiences we have here just to get you thinking about what some of the options might be when you come to the US. So if you are earning your LLM, no matter which law school you will have a class called something like Introduction to American Law. That is the foundational program that we law schools provide our international students so they have a basis of understanding to build the context of the US legal system generally. We have a separate section of contract drafting only for LLM students. It's not required, but our professors have told us that LLM students, usually being practicing attorneys already, don't need all the background about contract and contract drafting as the JD students. So we have a separate section that's a little more accelerated. We have legal writing and skills offered in the fall and spring to really help non-native English speakers strengthen that legal English writing and reading as they're going through their academic program. The American Bar Association in each state has some different requirements and restrictions on who can do what types of classes. So there are a few things that we've created, and I know other law schools and other states have done the same, to be creative to make sure our LLM students have essentially the same opportunities as JD students. So we have created judicial observation, which is a class for credit where students are matched, LLM students are matched with a local judge. And every week for about 6 or 8 weeks, depending on how many hours you want to earn, you meet with a judge before a trial, after a trial. You can observe them while the trial is happening and get to know them a little bit and ask them questions about their process. Why did you react this way? Why did you ask that question? What would you recommend I do if I'm ever a judge and the prosecutor says this? They love doing this. Our judges love working with international attorneys. They love learning more. Some of them are 30, 40-year veterans of being in the judicial system, and they haven't had time to travel abroad or get to know young attorneys for a while, and it's really fun for them. Trial practice is a class that we have in the classroom taught by a current county prosecutor. And so each week you take a deep dive into one role in a trial and get to know, okay, if you're the defendant, this is what your role would be. This is how you would do this process. We have a team, at least one team, go to an international moot court competition every other year. Obviously, moot court is an international thing that people know about, but we do send students regularly to that. And then we have a small practicum called Small Business Advocacy. Our legal English professor who teaches legal writing and skills also has her own law practice on the side. And so she, first of all, helps our students with a lot of pro bono opportunities, but also teaches this because her area of expertise is small business in the Twin Cities. So she has a lot of experience working with small businesses and really wants our LLM students to get that knowledge if they want as well. And as I mentioned, pro bono opportunities. If you want to take the New York bar someday, you must have 50 hours of pro bono experience before you can be certified for that. Our law school has so many opportunities through many different organizations, as well as the law school itself in many different subject areas, areas of the law, to help you get that volunteer experience and really hands-on, firsthand experience. What is it like practicing law in the US and helping other people? So, um, the University of Minnesota is a huge university. It is a Big Ten public university. We have almost 60,000 students total. Like I said, the law school is only between 700 and 800 usually, but it is a really huge university. It's like a small city within the city of Minneapolis. It is not isolated, but it is pretty insulated. It's very calm, it's very quiet. There are lots of things happening outside of campus, but it's pretty nice, mostly just students on campus. It's very close to downtown. Like I said, there are lots of Fortune 500 companies, lots of major law firms. The community in Minneapolis and St. Paul and the Twin Cities is really welcoming, really generous. And so if you have questions and you want to talk to someone from Cargill, you can talk to our alumni office and ask them to connect you, and you can meet with them. They would be very happy to meet with a current student or recent graduate. Same with law firms. There are lots of graduates from the University of Minnesota at all the major law firms in town who are happy to sit down for coffee and some questions with anybody. Our local government is all right here in the Twin Cities. So the state legislature, state and federal courts, it's all just a short 15 to 30-minute light rail ride away, depending on where you want to go. And again, there are lots of graduates from Minnesota law in all these places who like having these connections, who really like meeting international lawyers. And it's a great opportunity for our students every year. I talked a little bit about student organizations and extracurricular activities earlier, and I do want to go into that a little more. I think that is what distinguishes a lot of law schools one from the other. We have a lot of opportunities for bar prep before you actually take it. Of course, most students pay for one of the big company ones to start studying as soon as they graduate, but there are some ways to get started on that even earlier if you want. Great networking opportunities. You can see this picture here. Dorsey is a big law firm. They hosted us and LLM students from St. Thomas a few years ago for a networking opportunity, which was really fun. It was a great chance to meet, excuse me, their attorneys and LLM students from another law school who they'll probably get to know when they get home and are working together at different companies. The University of Minnesota is one of many law schools who participates in LLM job fairs. So New York University runs the International Student Interview Program, or ISIP. We participate in that every year, and UCLA has an LLM interview program as well. This is a chance for our LLM students to connect with firms and companies and employers who want to hire LLM students specifically. They're specifically looking for people from different parts of the world who speak different languages, who have an LLM degree specifically, not just a JD degree. So that's a great chance for our students to connect with employers that really want them in particular. We already talked about pro bono volunteering, student organizations. There is a lot of life to be lived outside of the classroom, outside of your academic program in the United States, and we really encourage our students to take advantage of as much as they can. Obviously, the most important thing is earning your degree and getting a good GPA and completing all the classes. But like I said, you cannot be successful if you're not happy. You are not a robot. You are not here only to read and write and study. You must have a little bit of fun too. And when else will you get a chance to live in the US for a year and take advantage of these things? There are lots of great restaurants, great festivals and cultural things. And yeah, there's a lot to do wherever you end up going in the US. And I hope students take advantage of that. So the Twin Cities has a very affordable cost of living. We have a lot of people from a lot of different places around the world who have come here to live because it's a great place. It's a very family-friendly state. We have an amazing education system. The joke is that taxes are high in Minnesota because we have good education. Like we support our teachers, we support our schools. There's wonderful public transit, which has been award winning in national competitions a lot the last few years. And that is now included for free for all students. So as long as you have your university ID, you can get on any bus or train and go throughout the Twin Cities, wherever you need to go, the grocery store, the NBA basketball game, picnics, the airport, anything. And like I talked about at the very beginning, it does get cold in the winter. Right now it is, looks like about 3 degrees Fahrenheit outside. That is pretty normal in January. But all 4 seasons are a little different. So spring slowly warms up, summer is quite hot, fall stays pretty warm for a long time. And we have managed life here for many, many generations. There are tunnels on campus, so you don't have to go outside once you're here. There are buses and trains, so you don't have to drive in it. The bus stops. There are shelters at the bus stops that have heaters so that you stay warm when you're waiting for the bus. We really know what we're doing here. We always say there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing. So at Minnesota, and I know some other law schools in cold climates in the winter, we take our students shopping for winter clothing every fall to make sure they are prepared for winter, that you have the right coat and mittens and boots. We help take care of you. You are not on your own. And of course, there are plenty of students who are from here who you'll meet in classes who will be happy to help as well. So I've been talking a lot. I've been going pretty fast. I do want to talk a little bit about what happens after you graduate as well. It is not required to take a US bar exam. Many LLM programs will help you be eligible for a US bar exam in some states or another. It's certainly not required, but many students do choose to do that. Um, Many students also want to stay in the US for a little while to get some experience working or doing an internship or something like that. The F1 visa can be extended for 1 year to do something called optional practical training, or OPT. That allows you to get a job, part-time or full-time, in a field related to your field of study. So if you are studying law, you'll need to do something directly related to law. But many students take a 3 or 6 or 12 month appointment at a firm or a company doing something like compliance or contracts or something like that to get even more experience, that practical training after they're done once they've earned their degree. And a lot of employers really appreciate their perspectives, their time, knowing that it's a temporary thing, and then they go home. So optional practical training, it can be work that you get paid for, or it can be just interning. If you have a good savings account or you're getting paid from your job at home still, and you don't need to worry about the money, there are many opportunities to do an internship as well in the United States. Some of our students earn their LLM degree and love being in the law classrooms in the United States and want to do an additional degree, whether that's another LLM or a doctorate, the research-based doctorate, the SJD, maybe a PhD. Some students end up doing like philosophy in law or journalism in law, something like that. Or just continuing with, like I said, another LLM, or maybe they want to stay and do a JD degree for an additional couple years. Many students, probably most students, come to the US, they earn the degree, and they go home and work. It is not, there's nothing expected or normal. It's so personal and individualized for each student that we don't try and push or encourage students one way or the other. We want you to understand what you want and what you need to be successful with your life goals. If that's staying and working for a little bit, our Career Center, our ISSS office will help you with the OPT application. If it's just going home to work and you want help maybe changing firms or getting a promotion, our Career Center can help you with that too. And our alumni office can help connect you with alumni, hopefully in your hometown, for sure in your home country, that maybe have done that before and can help advise you and guide you and support you. So whatever you want to do when you're done with your degree, we will support you and help you as much as we can. So this is a perfect amount of time, I think, for questions at the end. Hopefully I didn't go too quickly. Let's talk.
Thank you, Hannah. I've really appreciated, and I appreciate you spoken there for quite a substantial amount of time as well. We know how so well done. Um, First of all, I want to go back to halfway through the presentation. You said, 100% of people get considered for a funding or scholarship, which is always great to hear. Talk to me more because students will go, good, there's an option to have that considered, but
Mhm.
is there anything that they can do to enhance their chances?
Mhm. Yeah, so like I said, we do a holistic review for admission. The same is true for the scholarship. So, what we are looking to create, and I think this is true for a lot of my colleagues, I've been doing this job for 10 years now, and this seems very true in a lot of conversations I've had. We want a group of LLM students each year that is as diverse and interesting as possible. So, part of what you can do in your application, especially in your personal statement, is tell us about you. How are you unique? How are you different from other applicants? What are you going to contribute to your LLM cohort, whether that's at our law school or a different one, that no one else can? What life or work or academic experiences do you have that might be unique to you that will help you contribute something unique and different to our cohort? So, that would be my encouragement is think about what makes you you and different. And I know for a lot of cultures it feels like bragging and that doesn't feel good,
Yeah.
but you're not publishing this to the world. You're just talking to us and we want that. We want to know who you are, the real you, not just the facts and figures on your resume.
Excellent. And I think that's such a good point. You want them to go there. You want to help them. Talk to me about the ever-growing influence of artificial intelligence within the industry, because there's
Mhm.
no hiding and getting away from it that it's there to guide us and to aid us. But there are a lot of students who might think that perhaps they can use that to represent them in their
Mhm.
personal statement, which is not
Mhm.
wise, is it?
Please don't. Um, Yeah, I'm not a lawyer. I am an administrator. My background is international education. I do this. I talk to people, I help them through the admission process, I advise students. Be yourself. You are not a robot. You are not AI. That is not giving us an accurate like a perspective of who
Yeah.
you are. And so each law school, each law professor, even within these law schools, have different policies on how to use AI or whether it's permitted in their classes. I would say generally for the admission process, if you can avoid it, please avoid it. We want this application, all these materials that you write, your resume, your personal statement, all of that, to be as authentic and true to you as possible so we can understand who you are and whether or not you would be a good fit for us.
Yeah.
I also think it puts you at a disadvantage. If you have not done the work and prepared and practiced, you're not going to be as prepared when you get here. Writing a personal statement is so easy compared to writing a
Yeah.
law school final exam essay. Do yourself a favor. Do the work yourself. It might be hard and it will be worth it because then you will be good at it for when the time comes to use it for real on a law school exam. So
Yeah.
if you want to use AI to spell check, maybe that's fine, but that's what Education USA advisors are for. And they have a much better sense of how we use the language on a day to day basis because they talk to us on a day to day basis. They know, and then you'll have that connection anyway.
Absolutely. And I always think as well, especially with an LLM degree, it's just as important for the law school to understand what the student is about as it is to learn what the university or the law school is about. So be
Mhm.
true to yourself, students watching. We've all used artificial intelligence. We can't get away from it. It's the world we now live in, but please use it to help you rather
Mhm.
than take over.
Mhm.
Hannah, let's move on slightly to the class sizes and what you
Yeah.
expect at Minnesota for every classroom to be like, because certain law schools in certain states, New York, California, will have huge class sizes. And, I wouldn't like to say you're a number because they all serve a purpose, those different types
Mhm.
of law schools. But from what I understand, from what you were saying, the education seems very intricate and very personal to them.
Yes, I think that's true. I think every law school has a wide variety of classes, class sizes at least. So some of our classes that are bigger, the foundational 1L courses tend to be bigger, 80 to 100 students maybe. But once you get to the upper division classes, they're much smaller. Some classes are even as small as maybe 10 or 12 students. I think the average is probably closer to 20 or 30, but it really depends on the type of course you're looking for. Some of these doctrinal courses, constitutional law, for example, it's a lot of just you need the information and it's much less conversation based. Things like immigration law, the small business advocacy practicum, those are going to be much smaller courses where you have to talk and participate every time, and those are going to be much smaller and more intimate, certainly.
Excellent. I just want to wrap up as well with there are certain uh, nationalities and countries that will be watching today that will think that the USA is closed for them. and will think
Mhm.
that because of certain policies at the moment that it might be a little bit tricky to go and live there and study there. It's just not true. We're seeing record numbers from our side of students still looking to come from the USA.
Mhm.
And if you are from certain countries, whether it be from Africa, from Asia, and you don't feel comfortable, I would
Mhm.
imagine the best thing is to communicate with you and see if there are alternatives. If not, to kind of reassure you that this is right for them.
Yeah. That's a really important and complicated question. Well, maybe not complicated, but difficult.
Yeah.
So, there is a travel ban that the US government has announced, and there are certain countries that are not allowed, like citizens from certain countries that are not allowed to enter the United States. I would encourage you, if you're from those countries, still apply, still get your admission offer. That will help you. These bans will be lifted eventually. And when that happens, if you already have your admission offer and you're already in the process, in the queue of, okay, I'm ready. Once this travel ban is lifted, I can come. That will make it a lot easier for you. I know I, like my team, many of our colleagues at other law schools want applications from these countries because the students we've had from there in the past are wonderful. We expect more students from there in the future. We will probably, it's not a complicated process on our end to defer admission. So if you apply for fall 2026 and it's June, July, the travel ban still isn't lifted, we can simply defer you to fall 2027. That will give the US government lots of time to lift this ban, to change these policies, and then you'll be able to come eventually. But talking to people like me, the admission representatives at whatever school you are hoping to go to, is the best way to handle that for sure. Yeah.
Excellent. One of the questions we've had come in on social media, sorry if I've read this correctly in your language, is do you offer online programs?
Mm.
Is that an opportunity if they are prohibited to come to the USA at the moment? Is that an option?
At Minnesota Law, no. We don't
Right.
have any, we don't even have online classes. We don't have any online programs. Now, other law schools have some excellent, excellent online programs that are all remote, sometimes even asynchronous, but not at Minnesota Law. So that would involve some looking at like the American Bar Association or the LSAC directory.
Superb. And a lot of the questions that have come through are very samey to what we've kind of answered already. So, Hannah, at this time, I'd like to thank you for your time. Thank
Thank
you. It's been a
you.
great session. We wish you all the best. Hopefully, the snowstorm and the weather over there has calmed down a little bit and everything can get back to some kind of normality in the
It
very
always
not too
does.
soon future.